Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to your uncensored home for all things Warcraft. With your hosts, Berzerker and Navox, this is Unshackled Fury. Let your drama llama off the leash and get your tea ready because all the shit is hitting the fan this week. Welcome back for episode 54 of the Unshackled Fury podcast, your uncensored home for all things Warcraft. It's drama week here on the podcast. I am your host, Berzerker, and with me as always is the Keegan Michael Key to my Jordan Peele. He is Navox. Welcome back again, sir.
There we go. That was a good one. I almost had one on. I almost had something to come back with, and I didn't. I was like,
maybe I should warn you ahead of time. One of these episodes.
I love Key and Peele too because I just
they are a phenomenal duo.
Yeah,
and good on their own, but just like us, it's Wonder Twin powers unite.
I said, bitch. You said that though, right? You said that, right?
That's so perfect for this week. So it is Monday night, the 17th. We are kind of doing something that we do every once in a while. This is the Watch What Happens Live version of Unshackled Fury. Yeah. We're just going. There's going to be very minimal editing, and I'm going to attempt to get this thing out tonight. So it's just we're just coming in hot today. Which is in line with what we're going to be talking about this week, which is essentially all of the drama that's been popping up, it seems like.
So much drama.
Over the last week, 2 weeks, since we were here last time. So we've got several things to discuss on this episode. But in a more general sense, how has life been treating you since the last time we spoke? And anything good that you want to tell the folks about?
The only thing good right now is that our raid team's finally on a break, which is, it's a much needed break because, 8.2 needed to come out like yesterday. It needed to be released because I am at that point. But so yeah, we're on a break, which is good, and I have been I'm trying to stay positive with playing World of Warcraft. So I've been trying to level up my Kirin Tor Warrior. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry because I am dealing with I'm like
I want one of those.
My Cole Tyrion Warrior is leveling up in Burning Crusade right now, and I'm collecting all this stuff, and I'm almost done. I'm almost at level 70 with him.
Damn.
And then once I reach 70, I'm going to take him over to Wrath, and
there you go.
It sucks because there's only so many zones you're going to be able. I think I'm going to go 70 to 80 in one zone with this character because the leveling's ridiculous at this point. And I'm hoping to actually get to Grizzly Hills so that I might just hot-foot it over to Grizzly Hills and do all of it over there because I love questing over there.
Oh, that music's so good.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, it's it's just trying to stay. I'm trying to do other things other than play WoW to keep myself busy, and we're going to talk about that later on in the show.
Yeah.
But how about you? I mean, how's things going on your end at this point? I mean,
in line with that, we've been banging away on Jaina, on the heroic Jaina fight for what feels like forever. And so that's been the life of the raider on our team these days, and that does bring along its own challenges. And and we're certainly going to talk about that. And it is my birthday week, and it is Father's Day just yesterday, so I've been trying to, treat myself a little bit.
Treat yourself.
Yeah, took the boy out golfing for the first time. And it's the first time I've hit a range in forever, and it's his first time, and he was out there cranking away. So that was a nice gift to myself in a way. So
awesome.
Yeah, and other than that, just trying to beat the heat because it's triple digits here in Northern California, and it's just
Tell me about it.
balls, man. No good. Watching my grass attempt to stay alive, and watching the squirrels hiding in my trees and eating all my apricots and everything else, and I'm spraying them with hoses, and it's really just chaos, which is standard for my life. But yes, so we do have several topics to talk about this week, and front and center, we have a very important rage topic to discuss.
Oh yeah.
And for that, I have to turn the keys of this Rageahol powered machine over to you, Nav, because you have a very important topic that I am pretty certain you are not alone in sharing a fair amount of rage about.
No, I really don't feel like I'm alone in this little rage topic of mine. So, Blizzard. For the love of the light and all that is Warcrafty, can you please put a Warcraft vendor in game after a Warfront has been out for an entire year? Example, Arathi Warfront. Who else out there is missing an item from that Warfront? I know I am.
Yeah.
And you know I am.
Yeah.
I'm missing those sweet-ass looking lion shoulders you hear me ranting about episode after episode.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm not trying. And by the way, thank you for all the suggestions, advice, and feedback on my shoulder hunt fiasco from our fellow Rageaholic listeners. I try every single time that Arathi Warfront is up on all of my plate tunes, Horde and Alliance. And then I think back to BlizzCon 2017 when we first saw this awesome Arathi set. I'm sure you all remember BlizzCon 2017 at the World of Warcraft What's Next panel when Ian Hazakostas and Mr. Alex Afraziabi came out on stage and raved about something particularly special about WoW expansion announcement BlizzCons. And then they showcased Battle for Azeroth, and basically I fucked us for the next hour of the presentation.
Yeah, Abroziabi.
Our hearts and minds are with our factions and what we do first and foremost for the Horde and for the Alliance. Well, my mind is with my Alliance faction pride and those freaking lion head shoulders. This is why I'm always doing this chore. Yes, it's a chore at this point called Arathi Highlands Warfront, and I do this even though I'd much rather be leveling up my other characters. So Blizzard, please, pretty please, with sugar on top, put a Warfront vendor in the game so we can purchase any missing transmog items needed for our sets. Zerker, do you have anything else to add to this?
I think you're laying it down, my friend, and your point is well taken and should be taken. That, and this does typically happen at certain points where gear becomes purchasable at a later date, but it does seem like it comes a little too late after the fact.
Yeah, I've got every single piece except those lion head shoulders. Now, I've leveled up all of my plate tunes just so that I could get these things. And every single time I go in, I get boots, I'll get a sword, I'll get a helm. Nope, I cannot get those shoulders. And it's just, I think the game is rigged so that, tinfoil hat time, I think the game's rigged so that you can't get that last piece because it forces you to go in and help the other scrubs that are in there for the first time going through Arathi Highlands so that you're in there and everybody's like, wow, look at that guy blow up everything. Look at that guy take out the lumberyard by himself. Look at that guy take out the mines by himself. It's just getting old. I just want the shoulders so I can move on and work on my other tunes. And hell, the game's even made me level up Horde plate characters just so that I could do this thing, just so I have a double chance at this. So, but yeah,
it does seem to take a while for these things to come around, and I'm sure that they have their reasons, but to your point, if you've been doing it this long on as many tunes, Honor and Jesus can go fuck himself at this point.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
have not been able to get these things, because that does seem a little excessive. And maybe you just have the worst luck ever. Maybe you're the guy.
Maybe I it's been said that we, if it wasn't for bad luck, we wouldn't have any. So yeah.
Don't go outside with any umbrellas. Don't go swimming with sharks. Maybe you're that guy. I mean, who knows? Well, you do raise a good point. Like I said, is that eventually there does seem to be some sort of vendor for tokens or for something that will give us old, PvP gear is the one that comes to mind. Raid gear, all these other things are just easier to farm as expansions go on. But yeah, for something like this, where they've also said that there should be more warfronts, so there's heroic warfronts or whatever it is. Maybe it's the heroic warfront that's holding it back because it's going to re-engage people in that area. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it Blizz, listen to the man here. He's got an idea that I think a few people are going to be asking about at BlizzCon, because if you don't do it by November, God knows you're going to get 50 people lining up and going, Blizz, where is my warfront vendor, like Nav said? And you just don't want to have to deal with that. So, all right, sir. Well said. And we'll lay that out there for the Blizzard folks and see if they can pick it up and run with that baton. In the meantime, we do have, like we said, a whole bunch of drama llamas running around, and so we have some news. I guess there's news to talk about, but there just seemed to be an inordinate amount of high emotion running wild. So we figured this week is sort of a more relaxed vibe that we just dive into some of these things and have a little chit chat. I know I've got one issue in particular. It's just kind of a personal issue I want to stick up for one of our fellow podcasters on. But before we get to all of that, you mentioned before that one of the aspects of rating that we deal with is the fact that eventually you need to take a break, and it's good to take a break. So why don't we talk a little bit about that and about why that is, because I do think that is something that is shared across the spectrum. This is not endemic to any one faction. This is not something that's new. This is one of the age-old issues that all raiders have ever had. And so for you, Nav, you guys are taking a break, and why don't you walk us through kind of where your head has been at, what you've been feeling about this, and where you think a lot of this stuff comes from.
So, right now we had a goal. Our just to give you an example, we had a raid. Our raid team has a goal, where we pick a mythic boss that we want to end at, and that mythic boss was Mythic Opulence. That's where we wanted to go this expansion or this raid tier, and this is what we wanted to accomplish for Battle of the Zarlord. So what happened was we kept plugging away at heroic, and then we decided, all right, you know what? The first boss in Mythic is easy. We should go kill that boss because it's got the best two-handed sword for warriors. It's got a shield. It's got some stuff for everybody that everybody can use. So we would go farm that, and then we'd go back into heroic, and then we'd plug away at we'd plug away at heroic Jaina, and we'd keep wiping on Jaina. So we'd go back in and continue to do mythic, but what happened was we reached a point where now it's time to really buckle down and get heroic Jaina dead. So we focus on getting heroic Jaina dead. After everybody was geared up, our whole raid team was all geared up. We're all good. We blow up Jaina. Jaina's done. Everybody, for the most part, instead of continuing on a mythic, which the plan was, a lot of our members were like, okay, well, see ya. I'm taking a break.
Yeah.
And that was okay because we still had enough people to continue on. But then it got to the point where we were pugging DPS and pugging heals, and that's never sometimes it's hit and miss. I want to say that we were fortunate enough that we ended up with some really good solid players that helped us along, but you do end up not progressing as fast, and it becomes a slog, and it becomes this, it feels like a chore. So when you're logging in and you're wiping on bosses that you normally would down because you don't have your full raid group with you, you're dealing with pugs and things like that, it's a little disheartening. So for me, whenever the raiding started to feel like chores, and my attitude deep down changed. Like with me, I become less vocal during raids. Like I'm a pretty happy guy when I'm raiding. I'm chatting. I chat with all my friends. You know, we joke back and forth. And I know that I chat a lot. Well, I go from being very, very chatty to just not saying a fucking word the entire night. Like I'll just log in, get in a raid, do my thing, and log the fuck out because I'm just burnt.
Yeah.
And I try not to let the attitude show in chat or with the other people in group, because you don't want to bring because if you have a sour patch in the group and they're just like being sour vocally and things like that, it brings down other people.
Yeah.
And you don't want to portray that, or you don't want to be seen as a complainer and things like that. But I was letting people know behind the scenes that I was getting burnt out and I was getting, worn down. And I said that was pretty much it. Like I'm taking a break. I'm done. And thankfully one of the healers on the team had to go on, take a little bit of a break for 2 weeks for school. And our raid leader said, you know what, this is it. I'm calling it. We're not going on. We're stopping till 8.2 comes out and Rise of Ashar comes out, and we'll go back in fresh. Everybody, if you want to log in Tuesdays and Thursdays, we'll figure out what to do. We'll do Mythic Plus. We'll run dungeons. We'll run old raids. We'll do fun stuff. Just decompress. So we are in a decompression mode at this time, and I'm actually, I needed it big time. Like, so
You're decompressing.
I'm decompressing. Yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that in line with our drama week here on the podcast, this kind of thing can be an enormous source of drama and strife within a raid team or a guild when you reach these sorts of breaking points. Because I know for us on our team, we've been banging away at the same couple fights for what feels like forever, and I mean, we're one pull away from clearing this thing, but you do feel at a certain point like you're just banging away and banging away and banging away, and you feel that frustration start to rise. I know for me, there gets to a point where it stops being fun and you start to dread going into raid time, because you're looking at, okay, I'm going to be here for the next several hours, and after a couple of nights or a couple of weeks, and it's hour after hour of no success, and there are people that measure it by, okay, well, now we're down to this percentage and this percentage and this percentage and this percentage, and you're making incremental improvements. For me, that only gets so much play, where at a certain point, it's like, I get it, we are making improvements, but we need to make the kill now, because now I'm starting to dread this. Now I'm starting to become frustrated. Other people are starting to become frustrated. And honestly, that's how, in my experience, a lot of guilds have fallen apart, is because you get to that one fight that you can't figure out, and people aren't patient enough and dedicated enough sometimes, and the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, I think Heroic, honest to God, I feel like the developers did a pretty good job on this raid tier, because Heroic definitely was a challenge. Jaina is not a pushover. That boss is just not a pushover on Heroic. And everybody's sitting there going, no, she's real easy. Whatever. Honest to God, it is not.
Yeah, this is the wrong podcast
fight.
For you.
This is the wrong podcast for you. Go listen to the,
There are other shows with Mythic Raiders. You can go talk to them.
Yeah. But
well, and to your point, like the Jaina fight, we're wiping it, around 8 minutes, let's say. It feels like it's a 15-minute fight.
Yeah, because absolutely, because you have to do, and then the fucking, you got to do the first part all over again. You're like, okay, so we're doing fine, but we got to do all this shit up to the part where we're fucking up. Why can't we just put a save point in and go in at the save point and keep going? Yeah. It is annoying to have to do that. And then you got to take a break. Wait, break time. And then everybody comes back from break, and it just seems like people play shittier after break for some reason. It's like, we've given up. I don't know. But
I've had my fill. But I think for the purposes of this conversation, right, it's important for people to identify when that time comes for them, because I think rating, like, let's say, relationships at large, oftentimes people will not realize that they are in a bad situation until it's kind of too late, or at least it's so far down the path that people feel that the relationship is poisoned, and now they're like, fuck this, I'm not going to try to do anything to make this better. So I think the reason why we're having this conversation to a good extent is to try to talk about, one, how do you know when you're burnt out? How do you identify those things? And I think it's, when you aren't having fun, when you are dreading raid time, when you are, one screen's up on Netflix and one screen's up on radio. I mean, maybe you can do that, but if that's something that you start doing, that's a problem. And it's in those times when it's really important to be honest with yourself, honest with your raid team or your raid leader, whoever, and say, listen, I've reached my breaking point, or I'm near my breaking point, or I am just burnt the fuck out. I need to take a step back before it either becomes insurmountable, or I cause a bigger problem, or I quit entirely, because eventually you get past that roadblock. A new raid opens up, maybe you kill the boss later, whatever it is, and then you move on and you go to do something else, and it's brand new and it's fun and exciting. We always say this, this is the best raid ever, and then a couple months in, you're like, God, I fucking hate this place.
Yep.
So, as a source of constant drama amongst our community, I just wanted to put it out there, since you and I have been talking about this, that it is important, really important for the health of your raid team, but more importantly, your own health, to identify when you're not having fun, when you're reaching those burnout moments. And that's true not just of raiding, but also the game at large. To try something different, to take a break, to take a step back, to do something else that's a little more, let's say, nourishing for your yourself and use of your time off. So as we get late into the tier that we're in now, you see a lot of that coming up. So just encourage everybody that if you're feeling those kinds of things, take stock in that. Take a break if you need to. If your raid leader's not up to it, well, then you got to find a different raid team, because that's just not a situation that's going to work. But highly encourage folks, take that internal check, take that internal gut check, and say, okay, where do I stand right now, and what do I need to do to make that better before it gets worse. So, on to another source of drama, and this is something that, Nav, you're going to have to fill the folks in on. This relates to a community member who has been a host on some Warcraft streams, who is also part of another well-known Warcraft stream/podcast, whatever it is. A gentleman by the name of Rich Campbell, who's apparently let go of his announcing duties for Warcraft activities. So can you fill me in, or fill the folks in, on the situation with this guy, what's going on, and what seems to be causing all of the commotion amongst our brothers and sisters?
Sure. As of right now, just to give you background, Rich Campbell was a Call of Duty caster, and he turned into a Warcraft caster. So he's part of the MLG League with Call of Duty, and he moved over to doing Warcraft. And, he's been part of, several past Warcraft streams. However, this year, he was not announced as a caster of the Arena World Championship, and he's been a caster in the past. So he made a Twitter post stating that he was gathering his thoughts as to why he wasn't invited back to host the AWC at Blizzard. So it was, I saw it that night, and I was like, all right, I'll clickbait it. So I clicked on it, and then I joined the Twitch channel, and he kept talking about, I don't know why I wasn't contacted. I don't know. I don't really know a lot. I don't want to talk about, a lot of things.
So he's essentially claiming that this announcement came out, and he was caught unawares, right? So he expected to be on there and wasn't.
Right. He wasn't contacted, and then he saw all of his other caster friends, the Warcraft posts say, hey, look, here's the AWC, and these are your casters, and he wasn't a part of it, and he doesn't know why. And honestly, I don't know either, and I don't want to I'm not down for throwing shots or speculation and things like that. But I've seen casts that he was on, and I know that there are people out there that like his style of sports casting and information that he gives. But to me, it felt like he was more of a distraction on the show, and whenever he was doing Warcraft things. That being said, though, I did tune in and watch the AWC, and I thought Healing Stat, Venruki, Supatees, and Zico did a phenomenal job casting that tournament. I'm not a huge esport PvP Warcraft fan, but those guys can explain what's going on during the event, and it's not so boring. So if I can catch it live, I will. I'm not going out of my way to watch these things live because I'm not a big PvPer. But I feel like Blizz put together a solid group of sportscasters who know what the heck they're talking about, and it helps scrubs like me who absolutely know nothing about PvP. But as far as Rich is concerned, I honestly don't know. I don't think he knows why he wasn't invited back. He may know that, but he may not be disclosing it or something like that. But I really don't know.
And it seems like the community outcry has been quite substantial and coming to his defense or something. And I know he was asking for videos, or there was something going on. So it seems to continue on. I don't know if this is a done deal exactly, but I know that I've seen on the periphery of my vision anyway, is a lot of people popping up and saying, I can't believe they did this, and how can we undo this, and all these kinds of things. So is that kind of, is there a general sentiment that this was a bad idea, or are people kind of like, to your point, sort of like, well, I think it's 50-50. 50-50.
I think it's 50-50. I think there's a lot of people who are like, hey, bring Rich back. Oh, I like Rich a lot. And then there's other people that are like, I could do without it, because he didn't really know a whole hell of a lot going on during the fight, during the matches and things like that. The other people basically carried the show. And he said himself on one of the episodes, he's like, Blizzard didn't hire me for my knowledge of the game. They hired me for my personality and this, that, and the other. And it's like, oh, okay, well, to that extent, like I'm not, if you go out there and look at his past streams, you'll see how he words it and things like that. And it's true. He's not, and he never claimed to be a know-it-all of it, but I don't know. I think Blizzard is looking to clean up. Blizzard has upped their game in the casting and esports department. If you notice, if you go back and look at their past, casts, people were dressed down casually, and now they're more, hey, look, everybody's in a suit and tie. Everybody, they're making an attempt, and they have been making an attempt to make this a successful thing for esports. And going forward with, you're gonna have another, hopefully, Overwatch game coming out, so you're gonna have another esport thing, things like that, and it's just I think Blizzard just wants to up their casting.
Yeah, they've certainly tried to. It seems like anyway, make a professional run at it, right? Like to your point, they're trying to elevate that portion of their business as much as they can. And I don't know, in my experience, and then granted, we're talking from a position not one of knowledge, is that when it comes to Blizzard and how they deal with different things, it's always seemed to me like there is at least some minimal communication on what they're doing with folks, even if people don't like the news. So it does seem surprising that they would. I don't know if this is a contractual thing. I don't know. I mean, because it's not like they just call you up out of the blue and say, hey, do you want to come do this thing? Like they're a profession. I mean, they're a business. This is not just some guy running out of the basement. So there's there's more happening there. Is there, financial terms being discussed? Is there a contract of any kind? Is there, what's the expectation there? Because you're spending time and money to go and do these things. So there has to be some kind of a business arrangement there to be discussed. So it does seem surprising that they would just terminate an existing business relationship without ever discussing anything with anyone involved on the sort of ousted end. That just, I don't know.
Right.
That would really conflict with, I think, even the most, let's say, lowest opinion of Blizzard's business operations these days. I would find that very surprising. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know anything about this dude or what's going on, but I would be very surprised if it was the case that nothing was communicated.
Yeah, I think something had to have been communicated. Absolutely.
I would just take that with somewhat of a grain of salt. But again, we're speaking from a position of ignorance, so maybe we are just being ignorant. I don't know, but goddamn, it should have got people fired up. So, speaking of that, and this guy, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So you mentioned, or I mentioned, or we mentioned that he's out there. He's part of the community. One of the shows that he's part of is one called Warcraft, which you and I saw was involved in a bit of I don't know, a tweet storm is the right word, but a bit of a Twitter drama this morning, just this morning, when a friend of the show, Ro, tweeted out that he had seen, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the latest episode of Warcraft, which is a Warcraft podcast stream, it's on Twitch, right? That they had an ad for another MMO at the beginning of the video, not one that was inserted by YouTube, one that was done by Hutted, sort of a live read type situation at the beginning. And Ro mentioned essentially that he thought it was in poor taste that they would have this ad for a different competing MMO in front of their Warcraft MMO show. And I had to say, I was very surprised at the amount of either misunderstanding, willful or not, of what he was trying to say and how much grief he took on this issue. So I wanted to bring this up as a means of, and not that he's asking for this, nor does he need this, because God knows Ro can stand on his own 2 feet and defend himself plenty well. But, I felt it might be a good idea for us to jump in the fray, because it is drama week, for us to jump in there and say, listen, I agree 100% with what he is saying. This is my opinion alone, is that if you are in the sort of prominent position that this show happens to be in, and regardless of whose channel it's on or whatever the deal is, you can do that ad on a different video. You can have that on your channel, but do it for a different video, whatever the thing is. I'm not a YouTube expert, but I know you can do that. So I do think that it is, as he put it, it's tacky. It is in poor taste to have an ad like that in front of a show that's about a different game. And
absolutely,
people were like, "Oh, are you trying to say that they shouldn't be advertised?" It's like, no. It has nothing to do with being anti-advertisement. We on this show are anti-advertisement. I have said it forever, is that if I'm going to do the show and we're going to do the show, we're going to do the show, and I'm not taking a dime, because I'm not going to be beholden to anyone or anything. And, that's part of why we can say and do what we want on here. And I'm not about to change those rules, because that's kind of the foundation of this show. People go, "Oh, it's because you can't get one." Yeah, you're probably right. But I'm not going to go out there and look for it. So there you go. But I do agree with him, and I think that people were sort of conflating the ability to advertise versus what they were advertising. And so I'm just going to throw it out there. I agree with our brother Ro. I do think it is in poor taste. It's not that it's illegal or necessarily wrong, but it does come off in a rather poor sort of way for that show to be doing that kind of an advertisement, considering, like I said, They are a well-known show. They're connected through all kinds of channels. I know I see Wowhead, advertising all the time when these guys are happening live on their show. So, Ro, buddy, I don't know if you'll hear this or not, but we're coming to your defense, son. We're gonna ride in like a couple of numbskulls and say, yeah, poor choice.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Nav, if you have a differing opinion on that, but that's where I'm putting my sword in the ground.
No, I don't. When I saw it, I was a little taken back too, because these are all World of Warcraft guys. So and I know it's Hotted's channel that he hosts it on.
Yeah.
So Hotted is ultimately getting the advertisement pay there for that. But to put it on a Warcraft show, I mean, and don't get me wrong, there are people would you look at other Warcraft shows and they would also be like, hey, if you want to buy some gunners, do this. Here's the code for gunners. But this was for a different game altogether.
Yeah,
and it feels kind of like, if it was anything else, I think it would have been okay. But the fact that it was for another game, I think that's the thing. I think that's the rub right there, because it's a Warcraft show backed by the biggest Warcraft website out there, fan site.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, by the way, go play this game instead. Give this game a shot. It's like,
Yeah, if I was a company, and I'm not saying that Blizzard is paying them, that's not the relationship that exists.
Right. No.
Let's be honest. There's a hookup there. There's a connection there. There's preference there.
Absolutely.
Speaking from positions as influencers, we know about these things, and there is a connection there. And if I'm a business who's partnering with these people, and I see a video where they're supposed to be talking about us, and they're putting somebody else over, I'm gonna start thinking twice about my relationship with them.
Right.
And maybe they don't give a shit. Maybe they don't have to, or maybe they got a blessing. I mean, who knows? Again, we're talking out of our asses here for all we know, because it is drama week.
Exactly. That's right.
Listen, that it just doesn't feel right. And there are other ways to do that. So, if and when we ever get another MMO that wants to come to us and say, "Hey, Unshackled Fury, we'd love for you guys to plug us," I'll definitely have to think twice. So, moving on to our next. Coming up next on our drama-filled week of activity, we had not a Warcraft person, but we did have a larger sort of discussion pop up about what is and what isn't a real gamer.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a well-known sort of gaming community, what would you call it, character, entity, Dr. Disrespect, which, he's kind of on my periphery, but even I know who this guy is, because I remember he cheated on his wife, and there's a whole thing, and then he came back and has huge streaming numbers, and I just remember, again, just some of his prior drama. But in character, I suppose, he sent out a tweet essentially saying that mobile gamers weren't real gamers, and then the fray ensued from there, and you jumped in, and I jumped in, and a whole bunch of other people jumped in, and we're all having a chat about it, and you and I actually kind of had differing opinions about this. I think you and I were two sides of the same coin here, and so I thought it'd be good for us to just toss it out here and talk about it on the show, because I know what's going on out there. So for you, I know when you saw that, we certainly had, I think Scott Johnson was kind of the first one that jumped in my mind of prominence, that said this is not the kind of stuff we need. And then it kind of devolved from there, and I saw a bunch of different things going on. So when you saw it, what did you think about that?
When I saw it, I knew that, because first of all, when I first saw it, knowing the type of character he is, it was this guy's just doing it for clicks. He's doing it because he's at E3. He's doing it to rub people and troll people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And, it was like, and people who are not used to that are going, oh, well, fuck this guy, blah, 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 and getting up in arms. And, but later on that day, I thought about it a little bit longer. We had discussed things, and then, he started that was earlier, and then later on in the day he decided he was going to film himself in bathrooms.
Yeah.
That was idiot. Dumb. That was dumb. Absolutely dumb. But looking back at that, it's the fact that and we discussed this, the follower base that he's got so many young viewers watching him and mimicking his behavior and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was like, hey, it's all part of the gimmick. Y'all got trolled. And then I let go of that fucking hill. And I was like, you know, there's only so many hours in the day that to give shits about. And I'm all out of shits to give towards any, you know, content that contains that guy. So, you know, it was somebody I followed a lot when I was playing a ton of Call of Duty, and then he'd pop up here and there. But the whole, his shtick, you know, just got out of hand. You know, it's that old adage, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. And like, you know, he's got the impact that he's, you know, these kids that are following him, and they're all going to be like, oh, you know, being a hardcore dick is the best thing to do. You know, it's like,
well, and I think that's part of the discussion point, right? Is the conceit is that this is a character, this is a gimmick. You know, it's like a pro wrestler, right? This is this form that you embody. This isn't really you. This is a character that you play on TV. You know, I'm not a real doctor. I just play one on TV. You know, that kind of thing. And so I think oftentimes what happens, and this is part of a larger societal conversation we're not necessarily going to jump into now, but it's that the guise of satire is used to try to explain away poor decision making.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, I was going to say it's not like WWE, because you're not, the WWE is contained within that building, and it's, you know, it's everybody in on it. Everybody who is in on the shtick, everybody knows what's going to happen, you know, this, that, and the other. It's they're not going out on the street and kicking puppies and going, it's just part of the shtick. It's, you know, it's like, I just pushed grandma over.
Not anymore.
You know, it's like, so.
Not since the days of, you know, Mid-South or whatever was going on back in the days, Georgia Championship Wrestling, or some of these older territories that I'm only halfway knowledgeable about. But yeah, and that was the thing, was that it supposedly came out of that place, right? As I'm playing a character and I'm coming after mobile gamers, and the problem that I saw with it, because I know you at the time were saying, you know, listen, the guy's just being an asshole, he's just being a troll, he's playing a character, just, you know, let it go. And in many instances, I do agree with that. Don't feed the trolls is, you know, an age-old adage for us, those of us that have been around the internet long enough. But this to me is kind of one of those things where there is a way to do your satire in a form that, I'm not saying it's elevated. We're not talking about some sort of Shakespearean satire, but there is a way to do it and be a little more artful about how you're going about it, especially considering that there is a very pervasive strain amongst our brothers and sisters here in the gaming community to try to gatekeep in the sense of who is a gamer and who is not a gamer. And those lines are drawn differently for different people. You know, sometimes it's based upon gender, sometimes it's based upon race, sometimes it's based upon age, sometimes it's based upon medium or format, but all it is a form of division. And it's not really what we need, and I think that's why I in particular was like, Jesus, this is not, we don't need this. You know, we don't need this in the community, because I think that as a larger gaming community, gamers, you know, let's take a look at that, as defined by Merriam-Webster, is just a person who plays games.
Yep, that's it.
That's it, and that is a large. That's a large group. That is not about the who or the what or the where. It's just a person who plays games. And I think for those of us that are, let's say, a little bit older, you know, you and I, it hasn't been that long since, at least to an extent, they're pretty marginalized in terms of the entertainment sphere. Like gamer, oh Jesus, playing in the basement with Dungeons and Dragons. Oh God, get the fuck out of here. I mean, that has historically been the kind of approach, and so I think there's been a lot of effort there's been a lot of effort into trying to bring the community together. Like, we are gamers, and gamers means different things. You have, gamers with different abilities. You have gamers on different platforms. You have gamers of different genders, whether or not they choose to identify a gender. I mean, we have a lot of, definition-breaking events happening these days. And so we're trying to bring people under a bigger tent, and it's stuff like this that doesn't help, and it just continues to create division. Whether it was intended to be some joke, okay, fine, I get it to an extent, but at the same time, there's better ways to make a point about mobile gaming. And Lord knows we went through, or am still going through this whole Diablo Immortal thing, and people pissing their pants over mobile gaming. Listen, mobile gaming is here to stay, folks. It's huge. It's going to get bigger.
Yep.
We have to let that go. If you're still the kind of person that's like, oh man, mobile gaming, fuck that, PC master race. Listen, I'm always going to play games on my computer because that's just that's my jam, that's my vibe. But you know what? I'm also on my phone a lot.
I'm going to play Sonic while I'm sitting on the potty. Yep. I'm playing Sonic the Hedgehog.
To sort of paraphrase the great Belschnickel from The Converted podcast, your former home, sometimes you just got to play a game until you get numb leg while sitting on the can.
That's right. You get paid.
And that's okay. You are still a gamer. And if anybody tells you any different, fuck them. Because all they're trying to do is demean how people are choosing to play, and that's not okay. And I encourage people to call that out. Because we need to find ways to have a bigger tent for us as a gaming community. Because trust me, there are plenty of people who still don't think any gaming is legitimate. Anything that's not on a field with a ball is not legitimate gaming. So I would think twice about that from here on out. But for you, Nav, when you think about real gamers, who's a real gamer to you?
Honestly, anybody who finds a game interesting and to them. Like, for example, my wife loves to play the Super Nintendo Classic thing we have here at the house, and she can sit there for hours on end and play. Like, she's going through playing, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island or something like that. And it was brand new to her, she's never played it before. And she sits there and plays. She'll play for hours and hours. And I actually sit there and I enjoy sitting there with her and watching her play that game. And it's, it's something simple. Or my nephew who sits in front of the Xbox and plays his Disneyland adventures, where he's just never been to Disneyland except through the Xbox, but he runs through the freaking park on that thing and goes crazy playing it. He loves it, and hands me the controller. He's like, Uncle Adam, get me through this spot. I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. It's like, it's stuff like that. Anybody who finds some enjoyment with games is definitely a gamer. It's not even. I feel like it's not even like an identity you need to do. Like it's just. It's not like it used to be where I'm a gamer, this is what I do. It's like it almost comes across like the old emo kids in school. We're emo, we're it's like, well, I'm a breather because I breathe oxygen, I guess. It's just something you're doing. It's not. I don't know, but yeah.
There you go. All right. So anyway, that guy got suspended for the bathroom gig anyway. But I'm sure we'll have more community conversation thanks to certain individuals. Coming back now to Warcraft. More Warcraft specific drama. You and I some episodes ago talked about a potential level squish that was floated around during a Q&A or an interview, I believe, and we kind of talked about, at the time, a couple of different issues, more one than the other, and when this was brought up, I believe by Ian Hazakostas, one of the things they were talking about is how, as you level, we've gotten to the point now where, one, getting to 120 levels is rather daunting to look at, but two, as you go up in levels, you're not really getting anything at every level. You're getting something maybe every few levels, and even then, at this point, you're not getting anything past a certain point, and so you're just leveling up and getting more power or whatever the deal is. And so it's not as rewarding a leveling experience as perhaps it could be. So you and I talked about this in the past, and I think we kind of centered on our discussion more about stripping levels away as opposed to the rewards at every level. So where this comes into play again now is that apparently, and I'm surprised as influencers, we didn't get access to this survey, but apparently there was a survey that was sent out, and there are a few articles pointing this out. And in this survey that Blizzard sent out to folks, it seemed that to indicate in there that the level squish that was rumored at one time is a for sure thing that's going to happen, because one of the questions is, and I'm going to quote this here, are you aware that the maximum level of 120 will be reduced in the future? I.e. level squish will be reduced. Yay. So Nav, now that we're coming back on this issue again, and people certainly are in high emotional states of frenzy over having levels taken away or other various things. Looking at it again, now that we're a few episodes removed from this topic, how do you feel about this? Do you feel any differently about this? Do you think that this is good, bad? Are you indifferent? Is it all just math? Where are you at on this one?
You know, I'm actually okay with this. As someone who's leveled multiple toons in this game since its creation, I'm okay with the idea of level squish. In the long run, some players will feel like they're getting screwed out of insert reason as to why they're getting screwed. But in the end, it's better for the game, as well as an attempt to keep the leveling experience less daunting to new subscribers. You know, those friends we haven't met yet. So whatever change is needed to keep the game healthy for an entire community as a whole is good enough for me. And I trust Blizzard, and, you know, they, again, I'm at that age where I like to just log in and play my game. I don't care what happens to the game. It doesn't put me off. It doesn't. I'm going to log in and play the fucking game. I don't care. Whatever you decide to do with the game is fine. I'll figure it out, and I'll just keep playing it. It's fine.
I think what's hilarious is I've watched sort of the drama unfold with this particular issue. I can't tell how many people I have seen have a comment to the effect of, well, it's just obvious Blizzard doesn't care about Warcraft anymore. I'm like, what?
Yep.
Like, how do you draw that conclusion from this news? Like, clearly they care about it because they're trying to find ways to bring more people in. Like, I'm continually stunned by some of these types of comments, but I can understand, because I admit that if I were to log in, say tomorrow, and I was at level 60, right, that would feel a little off-putting, you know, because
I'm sure it would feel a little off-putting, but
there's something about that, you know, 100 or 120 or
But I found myself going through leveling on my Cold Tyran and going, well, I just dinged, 68, 69. What did I get? Nothing. I didn't get anything. I just gained a level.
You got closer to 120.
There's nothing. There was no instant gratification about getting that level, other than I'm just that much closer to getting my heritage armor. That's about it. And I'm not. And it is an alt. It's something I'm not. It's just. Yeah.
Well, and to their point is that if the point of this is not just to lower how many levels you have to attain to get to the cap, it's also a situation of making each one of those levels feel more rewarding, and I think that could add a dynamic to the gameplay that is missing right now, and I think we all agree on that. I don't know that there would be much dissension, and I'm sure that there is some, but as you're leveling, if you're getting something new, something different, I think that's one of the things I enjoy the most about leveling this Dark Iron Shaman I've slowly been working on over time, is when I get to a level and something new pops up and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this does. I'm going to check this out. This is cool. This now adds a new thing. And that, I think, is what they're trying to get at. And if that is what they are trying to get at, I think that will be successful. And the initial shock of, oh shit, now I'm not 120, I'm 70. I think that'll wear off, and the frankly, the fun that you're gonna have instead will ride that all the way to the end. And we talk about issues on here all the time that people get all riled up about, and then a month later, nobody remembers them.
Exactly.
You know, and if they're finding meaningful changes to make leveling more fun, less daunting, to try to bring more people in, like you said, friends we haven't met,
Right.
I don't think you can go wrong with that. And it proves again that they are still looking to find ways to improve the game and keep this thing going. Keep it alive. Staying alive, just like the PG said. So, one last piece of drama before we have a couple other things going out the door. We got not a Warcraft necessarily thing, but a Blizzard article that popped up that apparently, again, after years of not having any leaks, we got some more leaks coming out of the House of Blizzard that pointed to a StarCraft shooter, sort of like, I guess we're doing StarCraft Nova 2.0, that the StarCraft franchise had a shooter in development for a couple of years here, that Dustin Browder, who'd been around on several franchises there at Blizzard, had been directing this thing, that it was shut down, just completely canceled after 2 years of development to move people over to Diablo 4, which I think that's about the worst kept secret right now in all of gaming. But also that they were moving people over to Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Which I think that's kind of a surprise. I think people have been asking for that or wondering about that, but this seems to be the first confirmation that we have that there is an Overwatch sequel in development, which that could be pretty exciting. So on that note, first question for you, Nav, is what do you think that Overwatch 2 could be that would be significantly different than the original that would get us to come clamoring for that one?
Well, honestly, they're probably going to put more of the I would think that they're going to put more Fortnite aspect into the game. Like I guess Fortnite lets you build buildings and things like that, and because it's an arena style game, these games, and who knows, maybe they'll put a first person shooter like story mode into Overwatch 2. I'd play that game. I love story modes in first person shooters. Like I love playing Call of Duty. Call of Duty is over the top. It's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be like you're playing a fucking action movie. and anybody who's played a Call of Duty single player campaign, you feel like fucking Rambo. I bought in Overwatch just because it was Blizzard. I don't enjoy playing Overwatch because it didn't make sense to me at the time. It still doesn't make sense to me. Just because I feel like they're like, here's the game. Oh, it's got so much lore, and I feel like the lore was just put in there after the fact. I feel like they, it just made it up as they went along, and that's you can argue with me all you want. That's how I feel. I feel like things were just made up on the fly, and but with Overwatch 2, they have an opportunity to go, okay, well, we've got our core game, we've got the characters. Now what we could do is we could actually do like a single player campaign with these things, and then on top of that, you're going to have all the arena battle royale stuff in there as well. So, that might be something to do. The StarCraft shooter, to me, being canceled is just another StarCraft shooter working as designed. I mean, this time it honestly sounded a little more interesting. I mean, they were talking about basically a StarCraft battlefield game where you'd play a Terran, and you're fighting the Zerg and the Protoss, and you can switch sides if you want to, and things like that. To me sounds really interesting. But I'm interested to see what Overwatch 2 has in store for it, and we'll go from there. Because if it has a single player campaign, I probably will buy it, because I like single player campaign shooters.
Yeah,
so.
and to your point, I do feel not necessarily that the lore was something that was an after the fact sort of thing, but it does feel too piecemeal. And it feels like there is a larger story, but there's just not enough of connective tissue as we've gone along. And so if they and I think that this is part of the leak, or what's rumored to be, is that there will be this PvE story mode part of the game, which if it is, I'd liken that to something that I recently picked up, which is Titanfall 2, which is a game that is, it's predominantly a player versus player game, and that was kind of its whole vibe. But I am really enjoying the story mode in that. And
nice.
It's a first-person viewpoint shooter kind of deal, and I'm not the best at these. I can hold my own to some degree, but I'm really enjoying diving into the story and the universe and that whole kind of thing. And I mean, that's what I love about Warcraft, and all of these games. So that would be something. But I think the larger question here, and this is where, again, for drama, what I wanted to bring this up for is when we see leaks like this, and now that we've seen a couple of them, do you think it's okay for folks that are under non-disclosure agreements to start leaking stuff like this? Because I know for myself, there is a part of me that's like, oh man, we never get to hear anything. So to finally kind of hear something, it's fascinating, and it's in a way it's kind of great to hear stuff.
I mean, it's June. It could be planned. I mean, this honestly could have been planned. Because it was on a
doubt that very highly.
I mean, this was on a Kotaku article, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't this?
Yeah.
I mean,
this was from Kotaku. Jason Schreier, I think is how you say his name. He seems to be the point of contact where a lot of folks have been leaking the information to, and there's subtly getting some kind of confirmation about the legitimacy of these points. But, there is a part of me that's, I think, a larger part, which is the thing I talk about on this show a lot, is I don't like spoilers. And I like to not open my presents before Christmas. It's just, there's so much that, there's an entire industry built on spoilers and data mining and all this kind of stuff, and maybe it puts me at a disadvantage, and yeah, sometimes I probably go a little too overboard about it, but I do like being surprised. Like, if you just dropped Overwatch 2 at BlizzCon and I had no idea about that, I would be like, yes, this is amazing, look at this. And now I'm going to be like, yeah, that's what we thought.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of a thing. Plus, there is an ethical question here. If you have signed an NDA with your employer, you shouldn't be talking. And I hate to sound like, corporate stooge over here, because I definitely do not work for a corporation. But it's kind of it's an ethical question. If you are being paid a wage and you are under a non-disclosure agreement, you probably shouldn't say anything. And you are at great legal peril should you choose to do so. So it's almost like, one, we shouldn't know, and two, I kind of worry about the person or persons that leak this information, because they could get fucked. So that was that. Apparently, the splitting of that team onto the Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 supposedly teams did not result in any layoffs, so that's good.
No, that is good.
So we're continuing to get some good output there, hopefully. On that note, hopefully in the next month or two, I'll be doing another dive into the financials, see how we're doing over there at Blizzard HQ.
Man, I watch that stock go up and down every single day.
Yeah,
I watch it go up.
Here's
and
a
down.
preview. It's a fucking roller coaster. So Activision Blizzard is far from out of the woods. So we'll go with that. So that sort of encompasses all of the fabulous drama that we had going on since we've been here. So on our way out the door here, I just wanted to drop a couple of news items that we thought were worthy of note. One is that a Warcraft film prop auction will happen again starting on July 1st. So you have to register to get in on that. It's at propstore.com, and it looks like they're essentially auctioning off the same crap they did last time. So maybe they didn't get enough buyers, or it looked like everything's sold. So maybe they just had a bunch of people back off, because I know that when we talked about this before, the markups were enormous in terms of the shipping and the percentage that you had to pay on top of the bid to Prop Store. It was pretty expensive. But I did see some of the same cool stuff: maps, armor, costumes, weapons, shields, like all that jazz. So hopefully we'll see something there. And you know what, Nav? I'm gonna register, and if we can get something at a nominal cost, we'll have to think of a really good giveaway to do.
I was looking at the Alliance Royal Guard and Knight Steelblade sword. That was pretty cool. That sword, I think that sword looks the best at all of them there.
There's another mailbox or some horse armor. We'll have to jump on that. So that starts July 1st. You have a chance to register now, and we'll check in on that as it goes live and see if maybe there's something that the show can monitor as we go. Another unrelated piece that we had going on is that some time ago, you folks may remember, is that one of my favorite metal bands, Amon Amarth, had a new album, Berzerker, that came out, and as part of a sort of collector's edition thing that they did, they had a t-shirt that was designed by none other than Samwise Didier himself. Well, he recently put out a video on YouTube, and it was him just sort of talking, as he has a couple of images showing up on the screen, about how he came up with the design for that shirt. And the video is called ABC, which stands for Always Be Creating, A Berserker Cometh. And so it's just Samwise kind of talking about his process, how he was just doodling around, and it ended up that they wanted something, Metal Blade Records, the company that is with Amon Amarth, needed something, and they were in a jam. They came to him, and he just happened to have something, and he kind of goes through the process of how he came up with that, and it was really cool. So thanks to Nav here for pointing that out to me. That was pretty cool. And last but not least, just want to let you folks know there is a classic stress test that will be going on this week from the 19th to the 21st. So keep an eye out on your Blizzard launcher, and you got a couple of chances there to check out the old world and see what is going on over there. All right. Well, that does it for this episode. Other than this fine program, where can the good people find you on the internet, Navox?
You can find me over on Twitter and Twitch. I am at NAV_OX.
As for me, you can always find me on Twitter at Berzerker Rage, and this show at Unshackled_Fury. Feel free to contact this show with your questions, comments, or otherwise at unshackledfuryshow@gmail.com. And you can find this show on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Google Play. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high. We'll see you next time. Farewell.